regularly scheduled meeting of the Harlingen City Commission, which has been duly posted to order. This time I'd like to call upon Commissioner Mike Mesmar to deliver our invocation.
Holy God, holy, mighty, holy, immortal, have mercy on us. Please comfort the sick, the suffering, the prisoners, those held captive, the travelers, and all their families. Have mercy on this city, and that the city guide itself through wisdom. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all of you here tonight to our meeting, and we are glad to have all of our visitors here, and welcome back to our staff, and a Happy New Year to everybody. I think it will be a very prosperous new year for the City of Harlingen. Item 1 is the public announcement of events. Any announcements of events to be given to us?
Mayor, I just have one personal announcement that I want to say. Starting off the new year, I want to say that I want to, as a show of support for Roxanne and her continued treatment of breast cancer, I plan on wearing my breast cancer tie until Roxanne has completed full treatment throughout this year. And I just ask the community to pray and keep her in your thoughts.
We all wish her continued good health. All right, Paul.
Mayor and Commissioners, we have a number of different events between now and the spring I'd like to bring to your attention. We keep you up to date with these in your weekly report, but this is for the public as well. Next Monday, which is a holiday for a lot of folks, we have our annual Winter Texan Expo and Fiesta at the Municipal Auditorium, the Casa de Amistad. This historically has drawn between 4,000 and 5,000 Winter Texans. Last year, remember, we added a concert to the event, which was the Willie Nelson tribute. This year, it's the Man in Black tribute, and I'll give you a little more on that in a second. Next Saturday, the South Texas Sizzler at our soccer complex. That's put on by the Junior League. Middle of February, the Jalapeno 100, both the ride and the next day they've added a run on Sunday to keep people around longer. Kid Fit, Easter Egg Drop, Zoe Fest, Blues on the Hill later in the spring. Again, the Winter Texan Expo and Fiesta, we've been doing advertising for this for a couple of weeks. We have TV spots running on Channel 4. We have radio spots running this week. Again, the Johnny Cash tribute is at 2 o'clock. There are 1,500 free tickets to anybody that wants to come by the office and pick them up 2 at a time. Commissioners, you should have those in your weekly Friday deliveries this week. VIP passes, T-shirts, and things, so we hope to see you there on Monday. Again, the Winter Texan Expo is 10 to 2 at the Casa de Amistad, and the concert is at 2 o'clock. Again, the Johnny Cash tribute, and it's free. Everything's free. And again, it's geared towards Winter Texans, but anybody can come. Again, next Saturday is the South Texas Sizzler. These are pictures from last year. Had about 1,000 runners last year between the 5K, the 10K, and the 1 mile fun run. This is at our soccer complex. Again, it's put on by the Junior League. And then the 16th and 17th of February. Saturday the 16th is the Jalapeno 100. We've been meeting with the organizers over the last month or so. Jalapeno 100 is about 23 years old. It is going through a transition year. The nonprofit that ran the event no longer exists. And so the city and the Boys and Girls Club have stepped in to help continue this event. And so that's what we've been meeting on the last couple of months. The city's goal with Jalapeno 100 is two-pronged. It is to continue the successful event and to encourage it to grow. And so that's our goal. It's going to be a very successful event again this year, and so we're preparing for that. I'll take any questions on those if you have any.
All right, thank you, Paul. Are there any other announcements of public events? We'll go on to item 2, which is board member recognition. We have a number of incoming board members we'd like to recognize this afternoon, and start with Juan Garcia, Golf Advisory Board. Come on up. thank you for agreeing to come on board and serve on our golf advisory board. And congratulations, we appreciate your volunteer spirit. We look forward to serving the City of Harlingen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Robert Duncan, Bob Duncan. Bob has gratefully agreed to serve on our development corporation. Stand right here, Bob. We're going to take a picture together. All right. We'll hand you this certificate. Thank you for agreeing to serve on our EDC board. Francis De Leon. De Leon. Is agreed to serve on two of our boards, the Community Development Advisory Board and also our tennis advisory boards. Mr. De Leon, congratulations. Thank you for agreeing to serve. Lorenzo Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez, he's also agreed to serve on two separate boards, the Parks Advisory Board and also our Harlingen Crown Advisory Board, which is a very important board helping to keep our city beautiful, and we thank you for your service to our city. Thank you. And Jose Garcia. A familiar face that has also agreed to serve on our Harlingen Crown Board, and we are grateful to have him back serving the City of Harlingen and working on our Harlingen Crown Board. Thank you. We have two outgoing members we'd like to recognize. Desi Martinez. I want to see Desi out in the audience. Completed his service on the Development Corporation Board, and Ruben De La Rosa. Mr. De La Rosa here. See them. We'd like to thank them for their completion of their service on those two boards. And now we'd like to go to item 3, which is the neighborhood clean sweep from January the 12th, East Beck to East Davis from 1st to 3rd Streets.
Yes, sir. We wanted to report on the cleanup that happened this past Saturday from in District 1, which is Commissioner Castillo's area, and the area was West Beck to West Davis from 1st to 3rd Street, and we got some pictures like we always do of the team effort. This is the go back to the first one, the Southwest Key program and the Tamayo Home for Boys. We thank them for their assistance in this particular cleanup. 1 ton of debris was removed from the area, and you see them doing that. And if you go to the next one, a total of 28 tires were picked up. You see some of the people that participated. We definitely want to thank also Commissioner Castillo and Commissioner Leal for participating in the cleanup. And it takes a team effort to make this work. So I want to thank everybody, including the commissioners, for their assistance.
In spite of what those pictures may depict there with me and Victor out there, those young men that we're going to recognize right now are the ones that truly did all the heavy lifting. So we appreciate them being out there and helping, and they've been very good volunteers in the city.
Helping present this. We'd like to recognize any of you who are here to help with that, in particular Lilia Castillo-Jones, Diana Zamoripa of the Real and family, Chris Castillo,
They're not here.
okay, and Sylvia Leal. None of them are here. Right, we'd like to recognize them and thank them. And then we have some folks from our Southwest Key program. Are they here? The Southwest Key program, and then from the Tamayo House. If you're here, come on up. Why don't you all you guys from the Tamayo House come on up? so the audience can see you, and we'll thank you by, we have the, where's the camera? And we're missing one for you. We'll get you one. What's your name? All right. We'll get you. We're gonna give him the certificate. We'll get that to you. We want to thank each and every one of you guys for all your hard work, volunteer spirit to go out there and help clean up our city. It's really important to keep our neighborhoods clean. It gives us pride in our community. Keeps folks from vandalizing our neighborhoods. They see we take pride in our community. We'll keep graffiti off the street, and you guys have been part of the effort to help make sure that we have a safe and clean community. And so your services and your service to our community really is important. And we want to thank you for it. Okay? Congratulations. Item 4 is the approval of minutes of a special meeting of October 30th, 2012, and a special meeting of December 10th, 2012. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Being now, I'm going to go to consent agenda items 5A.
Do you want to vote to approve it? Make a motion to approve the minutes.
All those.
Yeah, we didn't.
There are no additions or corrections to the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Go to item consent agenda. We're going to take a couple of these items off the consent agenda, B and D, and we're going to just go to 5A, C, E, and F. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda items 5A, C, E, and F?
So, Mayor.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. I'm going to carry 5B along until the end of the meeting, which time we'll have an executive session to consult with our attorney on that. But I'll go ahead and call item 5D now. Second and final reading to approve and adopt ordinance amending Chapter 95, Streets and Sidewalks Speed Hump Program to exempt all elementary and middle school speed zones located in the residential areas from having to comply with eligibility requirements, and 2, provide the majority vote and approval by the Harlingen City Commission their request a speed hump at a particular location without having to comply with the ordinance petition requirements.
Make the motion that we approve 5Ds. Mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's discussion on that? The reason I asked to have that pulled off so we could discuss it is the last time that we approved on first reading, there was some discussion, and I believe the motion was that we would include the availability of high schools as well. Not to say that we're going to do it, but since we're including all our school campuses, there may be some circumstances develop in the future. Why not just take that all right now, include all inclusive, and that way we don't have to keep coming back and revising the ordinance. And that's, I think, what we had stated during the first reading, but it didn't carry over.
It didn't carry over in the language.
So I'm asking that be an amended.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and amend my motion to approve 5D to include high school zones as well as elementary and junior high schools.
Okay, do you accept the amendment?
Yeah.
In a second. All right. Then is there any further discussion on the motion as amended and the ordinance as amended? Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries. Item 6, consider and take action to approve an agreement between the Development Corporation of Harlingen and Viva for $200,000. Motion to approve the Development Corporation Agreement. Vito?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
There's always very, touching stories about how this program has improved the lives of folks by getting them trained and into very, very productive jobs. This is a great program that our Development Corporation supports. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 7, consider and take action to adopt a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department to request reimbursement grant funding for trail and other related improvements at Hugh Ramsey Nature Park.
Mayor, Commissioners, City was made aware last month of a grant opportunity through, a federal grant opportunity through the Texas Department of Wildlife for trail improvements. The grant, maximum grant is up to $200,000. It's an 80-20 reimbursement grant. So $200,000, 80%, up to a project of $250,000. Staff is proposing to do some improvements at Ramsey Nature Park. They're outlined in your agenda, chief of which is the improvement of some native trail, about two-thirds of a mile of native trail to Caliche that would be ADA compliant, as are a lot of the other trails in the park, and to improve the currently unpaved parking lot at that park. If you've been out there, sometimes it appears to look like, some of my staff members call it a soup bowl. It does not drain very well, and it is just rock, and so that would be part of the grant application. The grant application is due February the 1st. We've been working diligently to put this project together in a short amount of time. The resolution you're considering would allow us to submit the grant application. If we were to be awarded that sometime in the spring or early summer, it would come back to you when you could approve or reject it. If approved, the city's 20% match, if we got the entire $200,000, would be $50,000. I'll take any questions, but staff recommends approval.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we take action to adopt the resolution.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to say that in the last, 6 months, the water in the park, a whole food chain has started, and I'm seeing all sorts of birds there, and that's cool. I thank you and I thank the members for doing that.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
It's a great asset for our community. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to improve it. So, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 8, consider to take action to authorize the city engineer to negotiate and award contracts for RFQ 2012-13 geotechnical and construction materials testing services with the top 3 firms.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. In 2012, the city issued a request for qualifications for geotechnical and material testing services for a period not to exceed 2 years. As stated in the RFQ, firms must specialize in experience in conducting water table soil boring testing, flex-based testing, asphalt testing, concrete testing, as well as the preparation of testing results. Of the 7 testing firms, 6 submitted 7 qualifications using the criteria: professional qualifications of team, experience, availability of the project engineer, project manager, understanding of the project, and familiarity with applicable rules and regulations. Staff recommends authorizing the city engineer to negotiate contracts with the 3 most qualified firms that submitted the requirements: L&G Engineering Laboratory, Millennium Engineers, and EarthCo. Staff recommends approval.
I have a question. How often does the city in the year test water or asphalt or cement or concrete?
It depends how many projects we have. We could have a couple, 3 projects.
And who have we been using?
Previously, L&G Engineering.
So this system would end up like alternating these 3?
Yes.
So everybody gets a fair crack.
Yes.
Okay, and is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
I'd like to make a few comments.
Okay, if you need to come forward to the
Okay.
podium and identify yourself for the record with your name and your residence address.
Yes, my name is Dennis Charco, and I am with Robert Kistner Consultants. We were one of the firms that submitted on this RFQ. It's my understanding that ours was thrown out for lack of a signature on a CIQ form. The form is somewhat confusing because there's two different forms in there, and one is labeled sample and one has information regarding if you don't have a conflict. So I guess the point I want to make is that I'm not so sure that it's in the city's best interest to accept the firms that were recommended as being most qualified. I can only speak for our firm, and we are highly qualified, have done a lot of work for the city in the past, and would like the opportunity to work with you in the future. Now, if the only criteria in the submittal was that the form is misleading, I mean, that's our contention, is that it was somewhat misleading. But also, I think it's incumbent upon the city to select the most qualified firm for this work, and I'm not so sure that that's what's being done.
So are you asking for a redo?
I'm asking to be provided the opportunity to look at the qualifications of the firm, not just on the basis of missing a signature on a submittal or on a form.
And you're with,
I'm with Robert Kistner, sir.
well, it appears that 3 of the 6 had issues with the CIQ form, and I guess maybe there is some logic to what you're saying. Apparently, 2 of them didn't sign it, and 1 of them didn't turn it in.
I mean,
And that was the basis for disqualification.
No, I'd like to hear whatever, something from the staff on this. What is the staff's position with
I'd just like
respect
to point out another
to
aspect.
with respect to the defect?
You had 2 companies ranked below you, so you were 4th out of 6.
Dan, can you use a rundown? Is this an urgent matter for us to?
Is there a problem with you accepting the CIQ form after the fact?
I don't think it would be fair to the other consultants. They did submit the form, but they didn't sign it.
Well, you had 2 that submitted it but didn't sign, and then the third one didn't submit one.
Well, according to this chart, Robert didn't submit the form at all, signed or unsigned. Is that true or untrue?
No,
Correct.
they submitted the form, Mayor, but my understanding, they did not sign the form. It was filled in, but it wasn't signed, right?
Correct.
So,
There's 2 forms there, a blank one and a sample. They turned in the sample, but didn't sign.
Your firm has done work for the city before, but you have not done this process before the city?
typically, Commissioner, when we have professional services, if it's under a certain amount, we don't do RFQs, we simply hire them. We use RABA for our landfill project. We have to do continuing monitoring of the landfill, and they do a very good job, and we've used them for several years. We have used them in the past on some geotechnical projects, smaller projects that do not require RFQ. I think the purpose of doing this is simply so we can pluck somebody off the shelf and instead of having to go through the entire process, you already have a list of folks that you can utilize.
I think kind of what bothers me here is that he's ranked in the top 3, and one of the other ones that was disqualified was ranked 2.
Well, I would offer this, Commissioners, if the Commission is willing to do that, accept their CIQ form after the fact and rank the top 4 and use the top 4 in their rotation and include them in the rotation. That would be a compromise.
Did he got the qualifications for that job? Or?
Qualifications to do the, oh yes sir, Rabbit's been in business for a very long time.
The CIQ form is required when it's submitted. That's under state law. What this commission does have the authority to do pursuant to state law is you have made recommendations to the city commission on the ranking of the firms. If this commission, using its authority, wants to evaluate and re-rank its firms according to its evaluation process, it can request additional information to do so. Did that make sense?
Is there any other firm that was included here that would be affected the same way as this company was?
Yeah, the top company.
The top 2? Terracon?
Top 2, and they were ranked 2 6.
Well, I mean, if you accept it, well, first question is whether or not we can we accept the CIQ after the fact? Can we accept the CIQ after the fact?
State law requires that the CIQ be submitted with the proposal. There is a certain amount of time that they have to submit the request after they've been notified by the city to submit it. If you have notified them and they still haven't submitted, then I'll have to take a look at whether or not the eligibility requirement is allowable. But if the city commission wants to review the firms based on qualifications or experience level, it may do so and re-rank the firms.
Well, even without the CIQ having been submitted timely?
I think what I'm trying to say, Mayor, is that I would need to know more information about whether or not the city staff informed him that he failed to submit the CIQ. I believe, I'd have to look it up, but I believe the state law allows someone to correct their action so long as they correct their action within a certain time of being notified by the city to do so.
But it would seem to me that we shouldn't be more fair to this gentleman versus other firms. If you're going to be fair, you have to be fair for everybody.
Across the board.
And not show any favoritism in the application of the CIQ process.
Then let me ask you, is there an urgency with this item, or can we go back and re-offer it?
We do have some projects coming up, but they're still in the works, so we do have some time.
Well, can we go out and re-advertise and let them submit?
Certainly.
Well, can we let Roxanne check to see if maybe there's a time there that they can
Well,
submit?
why don't we table it and let the staff examine exactly what
Yeah, I
happened?
make a motion to table this item.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Staff examine what happened here. I mean, obviously, we want to be fair to everybody and have the views. You know, so the guys that did turn in the CIQ, they're going to, you know, may say that, you know, we did what we were supposed to do, and that's ought to be considered. But we'll let the staff look at it and advise us on what our options are at the next meeting. Item 9, consider take action to approve or reject the renewed fire protection contract with Cameron County Emergency Services District Number 1, fiscal year 12-13.
Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, what I'm presenting is the annual renewal for the Emergency Service District Fire Protection Contract for Zone 2 for Cameron County. Under your executive summary, you'll probably notice that staff's recommendation is not to approve. The reason for that is, in the past, I know commissioners have asked how we subsidize in the county. After review of it, over the past year, our expenses are a lot higher than what the contract offer is.
Can you explain, for the benefit of the public, exactly what you're referring to?
What we do is we have a contract with the Emergency Service District, and we're responsible for a zone in the county for the unincorporated areas of Cameron County in Zone 2. The cost for us to go out and do fire protection is a little less than what we do for the city, not the cost, but the services. We do fire, hazmat, and rescue in those county areas. We do not do fire prevention, public education, or investigations. It's just the emergency service part of it. Going over the last 12-month period and looking at during the contract, looking at those last 12 months, in this contract, they're offering us $179,600, and there's some change in there. $179,766.32. And our actual expenses to date just for salaries during that time period is $247,000. So we're actually about $64,000 behind, not counting the use of equipment, which is the truck maintenance, tires, fuel, any of those services.
And then how long has the city had this type of contract with the county or vice versa?
I've been here for a little over 27 years, and we've been doing it for as long as I've been here.
And then have they increased the pay to the City of Harlingen, held it steady, or decreased it over time? Is there a trend?
2 years ago, I would say it was around 245,000. Then it's gone down over the last 3 or 4 years. It's gone from like 240 something to 230 something to 190 something. Now it's down to 179.
And that's based on whose input?
That number is based off a formula that they have adopted. What it is the ESD uses the 10 cents tax rate for the unincorporated areas. They generate those funds, and the total number of those funds, they take some money off the top. They take $50,000 off the top for expenses, office expenses, for the secretary's attorney fees, mailing, office stuff. Also on that, they also take off some fees that they pay the Cameron County for the fire marshal services and for consulting services. And after those fees, everything that's left, they take it and they divide that 70-30, 70% for fire service, 30% for EMS services. Out of that 70%, what they do is they take all the calls that all the providers, there's 9 providers for Cameron County. They take all the calls that those 9 providers received or did service to, and they divide that into the amount of money of that 70%. And of that, they come up with a number per run, what it costs per fire they give you. And it comes out to $900, $1,100 per run. Then they multiply that times the number of runs that you made, and we went to 175 calls last year in the county. So if you multiply that, that's how it comes up with the 179. Actually, it's 174 and change. Everybody gets a $5,000 base to
Chief,
start with.
on that formula, is that established locally by the county, or is that they're following a formula that's regulated by the state?
The tax rate is set by the state, and that's the max they can go is the 10 cents. The formula is done locally by the Emergency Service District Board.
The formula meaning how they distribute the money?
How they distribute the money and how they come up with, how to split the 70, the 30, and how they do it per call. So the contract for this year is based off of the number of calls that we made over the past 12 months, the previous year.
What recourse is there if this is not approved? Because obviously we have more expenses than what they're providing funding for, then what's the next step? Is it negotiated with them, or?
I believe that there is no negotiation period. It's either a take it or leave it type thing. The funds, the formula is there, and that's the funds that are allocated for us under the formula.
So what would they do? They would just assign the fire call to a different entity?
Yeah, my thing is to recommend, it's just to bring you all aware of everything that's going on. And then you can make the decision whether you want to continue with the contract or disapprove it. But what would happen is if we disapprove it tonight, if we continue to do it, if you approve it, we just continue doing the services like we normally do. If we disapprove it, we give notice to the Emergency Service District, and then we have to continue the contract for 60 days. And 60 days is for them to find other providers that would take the territory. They would either have to talk to other Emergency Service District, the other 8 that are left, whether it be a portion of it goes to San Benito, a portion to La Feria, Santa Rosa, Rio Hondo, however they want to do it, or if one district wants to take the whole thing. The problem has always been in the past is that a lot of people don't have the resources to take any more territory.
But this has already been communicated to the county?
Yes, the Emergency Service District had a meeting last Tuesday, and the chairman of the board is aware of it, their attorney is aware of it, and their consultant was consulted with over the past month or so, ever since the contract came out.
We've tossed out some numbers here to refresh my memory. What does it cost us, and what are they offering?
And they're offering $179,766.
Call it 179.
And our expenses for just salaries is $247,000. Just for salaries is $247,499.
And that was based on the number of calls to the area?
Based on the number of calls and the amount of time that we spend at a call.
So we lose about $70,000 a year on this contract.
Just on the salary.
Just on the salaries, not
Just on the salary,
counting.
not counting wear and tear, gasoline,
Correct.
equipment.
Would there be any implications to the city and the fire department? Are there any equipment grant monies that have been allocated because we provide that service? Would we
No.
have any kind of an adverse impact?
There's no grant monies that have been provided for the equipment for out there. Everything that we apply for is based on the per capita for Harlingen.
Okay, so let's say we don't approve this, in event of a catastrophic brush fire or whatever happens out in the county, do we have any legal obligation or moral obligation? Is there a point where you guys say, yeah, we're going anyway?
There is 2 mutual aid agreements. There's one mutual aid agreement, which is a 3-county, Cameron, Wellesley, and Hidalgo. In the event that anybody needs anything for a large fire or a large emergency, they can request assistance from anyone in those 3 counties. There's also another mutual aid agreement between the cities in Cameron County and with Cameron County itself. Those are for extraordinary type things. I mean, if they have, it's not your everyday call, you get a grass fire, this. I mean, currently right now we probably do about 6 of those a year throughout the region.
Okay, can we not, or at this time, are we able to not renew? City Attorney has said,
I don't really understand your question, sir.
well, I'm looking at the 2012-13 contract, which is what's been signed by them, but hasn't been signed by us. That's what's in our packet. The beginning date is October 1st, 2012. Have you looked at the cancellation or renewal provision?
I've read the contract. I'll have to look back to see exactly what it says for you.
Termination, renewal. I'm assuming last year's contract is the same as this one. The provider intends not to renew the contract. After the fiscal year covered by the contract, the provider shall provide the district with written notice of its intent to terminate by United States mail and emergency request not later than June 1st, 2013. So if you have a similar provision in last year's contract, did we have to do this back in June?
We'd have to give them a 120-day notice.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking you, can we do this now?
And we're 4 months into this. We're 120 days into it already.
I mean, I don't think we ought to renew the contract.
Correct.
I don't think we ought to renew the contract, but we're losing money on this deal. It's not, we need to renegotiate the contract, but did we wait too late?
And one of the reasons that's not done is because the ESD does not send the contracts out in June. These contracts didn't come in probably till November, maybe even later.
If we were to not
So-
approve this contract, are you saying that there's no room for negotiating, contemplating a new contract? And if so, when could that happen? Is it available to the city and the county, or is that also set by the state where it can only be done that one time during the year? Or if this is not approved, can the county and the city negotiate a new contract?
That I would have to check with, well, we would have to check with their attorney, but I know that he's been directed and they didn't come out. They discussed something under executive session and they didn't come out because Harlingen is not the only one that hasn't signed the contract. Brownsville has not signed the contract and someone else. So they know about it and I don't know if they're working on something, but.
Now, the $247,000 on actual salaries that is tied to the expense to the city,
Yes,
is that tied back to a calculation of the number of runs that have been made equal to man hours, or is that something that we just pay for salaries irregardless?
no, it's based on salaries per man hour. We take the total number of time spent at the scene, and then it's broken down per rank for who was at the location, whether it be firefighters, drivers, and lieutenants or officers. And then their actual base pay rate or their salary rate is multiplied in there per the hour to come up with the run for cost per run.
So I guess what I'm saying is that $247 wouldn't be spent if we didn't have this contract. Is that what you're saying, or?
No, well, no, they would still be on the clock. It just wouldn't be spent in the county, it would be spent in city services only, inside the city limits.
I think I thought about the mayor's question and understand his question now. If we're not going to renew this contract for the next fiscal year, then we would have to provide them notice to terminate the contract by June 1st, 2013. I would have to pull last year's contract to make sure that that same provision's in last year's contract, because that would be true if we were going to terminate this fiscal year's contract that we never really entered into. We probably would have had to provide a notice by June 1st, 2012 to not do that. But I'd have to check last year's contract to verify whether or not the provision stays the same.
You recommended approval of this action, rejecting this contract.
Mayor, I don't negotiate the terms of what the services are going to be provided. That's city staff's. I read the contract and made sure that there was nothing in it that was going to be harming the city if it chose to enter into this contract.
Well, my question is simply is whether or not we determine whether we get out of it now, because we didn't give the notice back in June. He said we could reject it. Can we reject it or not?
I would have to pull last year's contract that was
Okay, well,
signed.
why don't we table this and allow you to look at last year's contract?
Because I believe last year's contract, the wording is the same, it's just that we don't know what the amount is until they give us the new contract. So we didn't know that it was 179 until they give us the contract in November. So in June, we would have to base it off a hypothetical number because we wouldn't be able to do an audit.
Okay, well, either we can table it or we can reject it. It's up to the commission.
Mayor, I make a motion that we table this item until we get more information.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 10, consider and take action to approve the installation of speed humps at Zavala Elementary School.
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion that we take action to approve the installation at the Zavala location.
Is there a second?
Mayor, I'll second that and have some discussion on that.
Yes.
But I don't, with the ordinance and the language the way it is, I think it's a good thing that we have the availability to put speed humps at certain locations. I don't think all elementary schools or all middle schools or even if any of the high schools at this juncture would warrant them. But in this particular case here, I mean, I do agree that the Zavala School, that location, it's predominantly residential. I think that's one of the prime locations where we should have something like this to help as a traffic calming measure. I think it's a good thing in this one location.
Okay, any other discussion?
I talked about that. Curtis Bonner, I live at 1818 North 17th Street. I was here when you talked about this first. I want you to think about school is only in attendance. They only run the schools about 8 months of the year. So 4 months of the year you're going to be inconveniencing those people that drive by these schools, and there's nobody there. 365 days of the year, after 4 o'clock, there are no students at these schools. So you're inconveniencing everyone that drives by these schools over these speed bumps that you propose to put in there. And if you're going to put them in, there ought to be some way you could take them out so they don't inconvenience us, the driving public, when school's not in session. I read the newspaper pretty religiously. I don't remember seeing anything about children being hurt by accidents in front of schools. So, I mean, is this a problem that doesn't exist? I'm assuming that you have some sort of information that would justify the expense and the inconvenience of the public to do this. But
Mayor, respectfully, Mr. Bonner, I just want to go ahead and say I appreciate your input. I disagree, though, that during the summer that the school campuses don't see pedestrian traffic. I live right 2 streets over from Bonner. They have a school park, and during the summer, a lot of the kids in the neighborhoods go to the school parks and play, and there's still some pedestrian and mostly children that are visiting the school campus. Secondly, there was an incident. A distracted driver did hit a girl on 13th Street about 3 or 4 months ago, and this prompted us to accelerate consideration of these speed humps, and that was the second incident on 13th Street. We'll talk about 13th Street on the next agenda item, but I just wanted to give you that information.
I drive up and down 13th Street nearly every day of the week, going to or from work. It's my observation that everybody's driving 20 miles an hour.
And are there speed bumps at 13th Street?
No, that's the next agenda item. We'll consider that. We're on the Zavala.
And where is Zavala Elementary?
Zavala is back off of First Street.
It's off of B Street.
And there's about a quarter-mile stretch that goes in front of that street where there's no stop sign, and there's a lot of fast traffic that goes in front of there, and it's deeply embedded into a residential area. And I've gotten some requests in that area for speed humps.
I think that's one of the things that I think that might be one of the areas. Like I say, I don't think all the elementary schools would be good candidates for installing speed humps. But this particular location, if you drive through there, it's heavily residential. A lot of kids play there, not just during the school days, but that's where they live, right there. I think that might be a good location for at least a trial run on them there. I mean, when we install them, I did check with staff, and if there's an evaluation period and we think a location we place them in there turns out not to be a good location, they can be removed.
One of the other things about the Zavala location is that behind the school is a city park, and it has a pavilion and a restroom, and it has designated soccer fields. So that's going to be a used park during the summer when there's no school. So kids coming in from the neighborhood they're still going to be there, and they're not going to have the benefit of a school crossing guard whenever they cross that area.
Did we talk to the school district, school officials about this, about installing it on that street in front of Zavala?
No, Mayor, we didn't talk to them about that specific location. We just talked to them in general that this ordinance was amended, and we wanted to find out if they were willing to participate with cost if we had to put some of these in. The response from them so far is that they don't believe they can because of budgetary restraints, so they would not be able to participate with cost at this point.
Well,
So the school district doesn't think it's of great importance?
Well, again, we didn't talk to them about any specific location. We just talked to them in general. You know, these are coming up. Would you guys be willing to come to that with us?
Well, I'd like to respond to one of the, going back to what Mr. Castile pointed out in terms of adding high school campuses to the ordinance. I've got 2 daughters that go to South, and if anybody has driven through the South parking lot, it is inundated with speed bumps. I mean, the school district is a firm believer in speed bumps. Their parking lots, their drop off and pick up areas, there's speed bumps everywhere on the campuses. I'm sure it's the same way at North. So they do budget and they do install speed bumps. In terms of whether they want to participate on a city street, I guess that's their option.
And Chief, do we have any data, particular data on this street, tickets or speeding or other
Actually, we
offenses?
do. There's a list of the incident reports that the chief has put together, several pages. It averages about 15 to 20 a month.
I think I'd be seeing these bumps on regular streets. Why we put her at the school? There's more kids in the school.
Do you want the chief to answer your question that you asked
Yes.
him?
Yeah.
Instead of the last one?
Yes, we were not provided this.
Well,
Yeah, actually, Commissioners, good evening. Actually, I just ran that report today, so I myself haven't really reviewed it. I made a hard copy and I shipped to the city manager just a little while ago the electronic copy, and I imagine the plan is to share it with everybody, but we're kind of behind the 8 ball. But if you look on there, I mean, the traffic enforcement is through the roof, and like Commissioner Lefwich mentioned, there have been a few incidents, but other than that, I know the information hasn't gone around.
Do you have a thought on this, a feeling or thought?
Well, did I try to stay within my area of expertise? No, actually, I think, traffic calming devices regardless are good, and as Mr. Cerna said, certainly they have, the widths are I guess, you can determine how wide they have to be. So for example, an emergency vehicle wouldn't be,
Impeded.
right, wouldn't be impeded, but as our citizen mentioned, regular cars would be. I think, the school district's input is probably important, whether they want them or need them, and I would imagine that, one like professionally, one death is too many, one injury is too many. I mean, from that perspective.
Does this, with school buses, does this interfere with their?
Yes.
I mean,
Let me just point out again, with respect to your comment, the school district uses speed bumps in their parking lot, their bus pickup areas. They're already exposing their buses to their own speed bumps.
Now, we met with them yesterday morning, Commissioner,
With
so
whom?
we still,
Met with whom?
with Oscar Tapia, Assistant Superintendent of Operations, and Julio Cavazos, also Assistant Superintendent. And we have not talked to Dr. Flores, so we planted that seed, and we're hoping, the intent was for them to take it back to Dr. Flores, sit down, and hopefully we can have a subsequent meeting, and where we can talk about cost and where these are going to go up. I think the first thing first, are we going to decide to put one up somewhere and then present that to the school district and say, look, we're going to look at putting these up at these locations or this location. Would you guys be willing to partner with cost? And hopefully they would say at that time, yes. But now we have a specific location.
if memory is correct, these cost about $7,500 or so, $7,700.
When we ordered 10 sets, each set has 3 pieces, have you? 4 pieces. Each set has 4 pieces. When we ordered 10 sets, we got it for about $3,500 a set.
Oh, okay.
So about $35,000 for 10.
Okay. I mean, this is I know the neighborhood, I know it's a residential neighborhood, just like Commissioner Castillo described. I mean, it seems like be a good candidate for speed bumps. I'm a little concerned about not talking to the school district about whether they agree that in this particular location install them. I mean, that seems to make sense, but I am concerned about having some input from them about the particular location. Less so at Zavala, more so on the next one, Vernon Memorial. Not taking it, you don't really mean Memorial, you mean the former Memorial. Memorial's not there anymore.
Well, I have some comments on that item there.
Okay,
That's
well,
why
we'll get
I
to
listed
that.
it as a discussion only because I may not necessarily be in favor of installation at those locations, but I did agree to put it as a discussion.
All right, well.
Can we, I'd be more comfortable in getting specific feedback from the school district. I mean, I have no problem with this, but I'd like for them to find it because it will affect their school buses.
Do we have speed humps in Treasure Hills and Commissioner Methner's district?
No.
I think we have one down.
There's several locations.
Several
locations in Treasure Hills. One going out to the golf course, the country club.
I think there's one. I think
And
there's
another
on Emerald Lake.
location by the street that comes up by Bloomers.
Correct.
But not on Payne, we don't have any speed.
Oh, not on Payne.
Not on Payne, but
Which
we're
is
talking
right,
about a
which is-
street
which
that's
is
in an
common.
embedded, we're talking about a high pedestrian area. I mean, this is a no-brainer. This is an area that's a city street that we need to take some leadership on to protect pedestrians, the kids that go to our school. I mean, these are our children. We've already had this year experienced children with the aid of school crossings and school crossing guards be hit by an automobile, and we're bickering over whether the school district wants to participate in this. We need to take some leadership and protect our citizens and protect our children, and we need to move forward and improve this item.
How many do you propose and where do you propose we put them?
We're just looking at 1 or 2 right in front of the school. Just to
Directly
slow
in
the
front of
traffic.
I mean, that's one thing I don't
When
have.
you
Nobody said
enter the
exactly
school
where they're gonna
zone
go.
from each
Get them out
end,
of school.
Would that be between Lafayette and Austin? On B Street?
what I'm trying to do now is get this approved by the commission and let staff determine what the best
Our engineer would have to look at that, Commissioner, and determine where would be the best location that would not create a hazard for the traveling public.
Right.
Because you certainly don't want to put it 10 feet from a stop sign. That would not make any sense.
Correct.
So he'd have to look at that and determine where would be the best location. And once he determines a location, we would also in turn have to talk to the property owners that are just adjacent to that location, because in the evening, that's going to make some noise.
Precisely.
Cars hitting that, it's going to make a little bit of noise, and we want to make sure they're okay with that. We do the same thing right now when we install a speed hump. Where we get a petition, the 75% sign off on the petition, where we determine it's going to go. The engineer talks to that property owner and say, you okay with it? They sign off saying, yes, they're okay with it. So we would do the same, similar type situation.
In all of the other speed hump locations around town, have you gotten any complaints about them?
Okay, well, what are the wishes of the commission? We have a motion and a second. Is there any
I
other?
did just one other comment. I certainly understand, and I think it's a good point as far as talking to the school district specifically about a proposed location. I don't have a problem with getting some input back from the school district before we go forward and do this. I think we do need to develop as much as we can partnerships with them. And after the fact, if we take that leadership role and take an action on our own accord as a city, then we can do that. But at least we can afford them the opportunity to give some input. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, I understand, Dan, you spoke with the school district.
Well,
And
just on
you
the
offered
general
them
idea
an
of
opportunity to
funding.
partner with us, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think probably the general consensus was, do
The-
you have
the-
any objections with us doing this?
They didn't say they had any objection,
Well,
no.
obviously, if they don't. if
I think
they
they're
don't have
concerned
any-
with budgetary issues, that's all.
Yeah, if they don't want to fund it, then they don't have any objection with it if they know you're going to do it, right?
That's probably true.
They didn't express any concern about doing it.
Not to me, no, sir.
Do we have do we have bumps in front of any other schools?
No, sir. Schools were excluded from the original ordinance. Speed humps are made to attract your attention.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Whether you're a bus driver, whether you're a motorist, whatever the case may be, and I'm kind of paraphrasing from our engineering department, they're made to attract your attention. So the thought was that if we put them in front of a school, it would detract from your vision, because you're paying more attention to how far you are from the speed hump. You're slowing up instead of paying attention to the kids that are coming across.
That's a great thought, and if you really, you might want to convey that to the school district, because they're using speed bumps in their parking lots, and if what you're saying is the strategy of a speed hump, then they're putting their own kids and drivers at risk by using speed humps on their parking lots and then their pickup and drop-off areas.
And again, Commissioner, I'm simply saying, from an engineering standpoint, our engineers, that's how they feel. That they are made to get your attention. That's the whole purpose behind speed
Don't
humps.
shoot the messenger. Just tell them.
Yeah, I
Knew this was gonna
The school
happen.
just telling you what I'm telling you, Zach. I'm just telling you,
You know,
if
I
that's
don't-
the
I
case,
don't
maybe
mind
we
that.
should tell the school district they're creating hazardous areas by using speed bumps in their own parking lot.
I would feel more comfortable with feedback, direct feedback from the school
If-
district, whether it be from the superintendent or the board.
If the commission prefers, we
Because
could,
I don't want to, piss them off.
Right.
if the commission prefers, we could schedule a
I think
meeting
they would have indicated whether they were upset when he approached them.
and get any written comments and get it back to the city council. We can do that. Sure.
All right, we have a motion, a second. We already made the motion, go withdraw the motion.
Mayor, I think this
table.
location is a no-brainer. I think we need to take some leadership in this. I'm not going to amend or withdraw my motion. We need to move forward with the Zavala location.
Can I amend my second?
Let's put it on. That's, my vote is yes.
Amend it or withdraw it.
Well, with the only thing, I co-sponsored this item on the agenda, and I think it's a good idea in general, but I think a good point was brought up about at least communicating more specifically with the school on this location. We can always come right back and take the same very action and get this done.
May I point out that the Valley Morning Star printed an article yesterday identifying the locations for these speed bumps, and I'm sure that everybody at the school district is fully aware that the city's intent on either moving forward with these speed humps. And I don't think we got any calls yesterday or today that objected to what we were planning on doing for those two locations.
Well, the only, the only thing that I ask you to consider, and as I said, the Zavala location seems, just as a layperson, seems to make sense to me. I'm not an engineer, but it kind of makes sense to me. I'm not, you know, the Zavala might be a good location. There's some things I hadn't thought about, like noise and issues like that. It may be that after we look at the rest of this stuff, if we were to table this, it'll fly by or pass next time. I don't want to send the wrong message if it fails tonight, only because we didn't have enough information to consider it. That's all. It's just, you know, would you consider tabling this until we finish getting some more information for the commission? I think the commission's made some, they've asked some questions. They want some information, and that's all.
This is was on the agenda to modify the ordinance weeks and months ago. None of these considerations were, they were brought up, but evidently staff failed to follow through on confirming with the school district, because these questions were brought up. Now we're to the point of kicking the can down the road, exposing the kids to more hazards than what they should be, because we have a lack of leadership. And I'm not going to support that. I'm not backing off of my motion.
It's fine.
If the commission doesn't want to support it, okay, and they want to continue to put our children at risk as we attempt, you know, to
nobody's trying to put anybody's children at risk, and you know that, Commissioner. I think that's so unfair.
I think with all of the speed hump locations that we have around the town,
I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
All right, the motion fails. Item 11, consider and discuss the installation of speed humps at Vernon and Memorial Middle Schools.
Mayor, I'm going to make a motion that we table this item due to the fact that obviously the commission fails at leadership qualities to appropriately identify the proper protections of the community. So that's my motion, is to table this item.
There's a motion to table, but we can still discuss this if this is not we can table it, but it take a second to vote to table it, or we can discuss it if the commission wants to discuss it. It's not an action.
I don't think we have any other reasons to discuss this.
Yeah, once again, we just need to bring the school district into this.
Enough leadership.
I'd like to hear what Commissioner Castillo's thoughts were.
I agreed to put this item on the agenda as a discussion item only, simply because at this point, I didn't really think that the two locations stipulated on the agenda item, which is Vernon and Memorial, given the locations themselves as streets, I don't think they were good candidates for speed humps. I think there's other things we could explore. I like generally the idea of speed humps. I think we have to be very strategic on where we place them. I still think, even though this got a little bit squirrely on this last item about the approval of the item, I still think that Zavala is a prime candidate for that. I think these two locations here on this item, at this point, I would need more information, a little bit more data to figure out if that would be the location, either of these places, for a speed hump. Because of the fact, especially like on 13th Street, that's a very much used as a thoroughfare. A lot of traffic goes through there. Considering also, of course, the safety of the kids. That's the predominant reason why we're even discussing this. But I just want to make sure that when we make a decision like that, we do it responsibly and we try to make the best decision we can. So that's why I agreed to put it on there. I thought it was important enough for at least for us to have an open discussion about it, and maybe try to develop some next step strategies. Maybe it wouldn't entail speed humps at those locations. Maybe there'd be other things that other people that may be a lot smarter than we are, that know a little bit more expertise in that area, would give maybe other recommendations. That was generally my comments on that, on those two locations.
They're not using the former Memorial school as for students anymore, are they? Not going to be turned into administration?
I'm not sure, man. It's closed up, Mayor.
You know,
They're not.
Did they have new tennis courts over there?
I'm sorry?
Did they have new tennis courts over there?
I don't know.
Did they have track? Did they have track events?
Well, I'm sure
Track
they have
practice
both.
over there? So
They have to
the
know
facility is going to be utilized.
Yeah.
There's going to be,
There's a-
students there, there's going to be pedestrian traffic there. It's going to be a student pedestrian population that's going to utilize the facilities over there. 13th Street is a street that already has 4 designated pedestrian crossings on it with no stop signs. And it is definitely a high pedestrian area and needs consideration. Whether we put speed humps there or a stop sign right in the middle, something needs to be done. We have already experienced near fatalities of students at the school even when there was a crossing guard in attendance helping that student. Something needs to be done. This commission needs to get some leadership, not to steal your term, Commissioner Mesmer, but some, I'm not even going to say it, but you need some fortitude. We need some leadership fortitude on this commission to move things forward instead of just sit there and pondering them and kicking the can down the road until we've got blood on our hands.
That's right.
Once again, I'm just curious about what the school district, what they advise.
Care about the
It's their
kids.
property.
You know, I appreciate.
I think that
what-
there's a, I'm gonna, it's my turn.
Go ahead.
You know, I took 3 kids to school there every day that they were in junior high and at the old memorial. And there were some real issues there. One of the reasons I think they moved that campus was because of those issues there at I guess Washington and 13th Street, not Washington, 13th Street, Jefferson and 13th Street. Those issues are still probably, some of those issues probably still prevail on the Vernon side, so I'm very familiar with this issue. I think it's certainly a good thing to look at and improve safety on 13th Street during the school hours. I think that's an important thing that we should look at. You know, I certainly don't think anybody has to suggest that people are not concerned about these issues. You know, I've had lots of discussions about traffic issues over there at Memorial. The question is, you know, what's the right solution? Are speed humps the right solution, or is there something else that needs to be done to slow traffic down especially during the let-off and pickup hours at Vernon? And I'd certainly like to have this discussion and find out. But I think we need to have a committee, maybe meet with some school district people and the engineers and bring back a recommendation and let's seriously look at it. But I mean, I'm not an engineer. I don't pretend to know how to do these things or a traffic engineer. But I think that probably there's somebody smart enough to tell us what we ought to do over there.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to just point out that, you know, it's nice that you were able to drive your children to school, but there's a lot of low-income folks that attend the school over there, and they walk, and they cross those roads over there, and they're exposed. And we need to make considerations. We can't be followers and have the school district tell us what we need to be doing. We were elected to be leaders of our community and have the fortitude to make decisions.
Well, this is the first time that you've raised this issue.
And to think for ourselves.
Okay.
Mayor Boswell, I've been modifying this ordinance since last February. It has been on the agenda several times. I've gotten to this point to where I can put actual locations for consideration for speed humps, and now the commission is balking and fails to have the leadership to move forward with even speed humps in an area like Zavala.
Okay, that's fine. Any other discussion?
Mayor, I would like to say something real quick, if I may.
You have a minute.
I would like to say that this
You have
is for
to approach the
safety.
podium, identify yourself, state your residence, address. And you have 60 seconds. Ma'am.
284 South Office Palmer Road.
My name is Yolanda Chauvin. This is for the safety of the children, not for the convenience of the adults who should know how to drive, not run over people, okay? So, in other words, before you vote, think of this: how much is your child worth? Not everybody is fortunate enough to drive their children to school. Some walk their children to school. Some are not able to walk their children to school because they may be disabled. They're walking to school. The children have to walk to school, and they have to, like I say, safety. It's for safety, not for the convenience of the adults who are, in my opinion, not adults who are paying attention on the road, and that's why we have accidents. I remember as a child, the first child that was killed at Gay Junior High was a Martinez. She was our imam lady, and her child was run over, dead. No longer could she see her child.
I agree with the Commissioner Lethwood said. We need to put those bonds, put it on.
Okay, but this isn't an action item. This is not an action item tonight. It's not placed on the agenda as an action item. So there couldn't be any action anyway. It's just a discussion item. All right, is there any other discussion on this item?
May I have a motion on this item to table it?
Okay, is there a second? All right, that motion dies for lack of a second. Item 12, consider and take action to, 1, submit a proposed charter amendment to the city's qualified voters for their approval or disapproval at the May 11, 2013 general election to change city general election dates from May to November. 2, authorize city staff to prepare for a city charter amendment election on said item. And 3, authorize city staff to prepare the charter amendment election ballot language for city commission approval and on said item.
Mayor, I second Commissioner Sanchez's motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to put this amendment, this charter amendment on the ballot for May the 11th. Do we have time to do that?
The ballot language would have to be ready by March the 20th, 2013 to meet all the legal deadlines.
May I have a short and brief presentation I'd just like to go through for the benefit of the commission and the public? You can bring it up. I just want to point out, you get the votes on it. Just want to talk about the numbers of some of the latest election that we just had in November. It was a citywide turn, based on the citywide turnout numbers. And even though we only had 3 districts up for election, we also had some other items on the agenda, on the ballot, and that's had to do with the presidential numbers. So therefore, we had turnouts in District 1 and District 2. And according to the Cameron County Elections Office, I've gotten those numbers, and though they didn't participate in any municipal elections, they did come out and vote in good numbers. And as you can see, the District 1 numbers were 3,177 voters came out. District 2, which is my district, even though there were no city elections, another 2,328 voters, for a grand total of 14,154 citywide voters voted in November. To exceed that number for May elections, you have to go back and accumulate all the citywide elections, beginning with the 2010 citywide race, which included your last re-election, all the way back to 2004, and that is 15,965. You have to go back 5 elections and total those numbers up before you get to one November election, which coincides with the national or state candidates. Now, what does that do? That means that if you're running in May for mayor and your high vote there is 3,900, that means that the city the mayor is being elected on less than 2,000 votes. If you coincide that and run it concurrent with an even year election in November, the number jumps to 7,500 voters, approximately, to elect a mayor. To win, you need to have over 75 or 7,000 votes to be elected as mayor. If you go back to May, the number drops down to less than 2,000. I think these are significant numbers, and I think the commission really needs to think about this, because I think that one of the things that we need to do is we need to allow the voters to weigh in on this. We need to allow the voters to be included in the decision of whether we're going to move this election to November, because the numbers show that you're going to have more participants looking at city issues as they look at state and national issues, and that makes a more involved citizen in the community. We want people to have ownership in the community. This is another way to get it done. You've got 14,000 voters that are going to come out. Not only are they going to take note of the state and national issues, they're going to take note of what's going on at the local scene. They're going to participate. There's going to be more inclusion. There's going to be more diversity involved in the decision making in the direction of the city. Some people say, well, this is going to create a bias. Well, actually, it kind of works out good, because with 3-year terms, every other term, you're going to have an even year election. We just had 2012. We had commissioners. It was a presidential election. For those 3 districts, we had 8,400 voters that came out in those districts. Typically, we wouldn't have more than 1,800 voters. Just something that's notable, the next mayoral election for the City of Harlingen in 2016 is going to coincide with the presidential election. Now, what do we want to have? Or should we not allow the citizens to weigh in for consideration of the fact that our next mayoral election in 2016 could be decided by 40 to 50% of the registered voters in this city, and draw numbers of 14 to 16,000 voters, opposed to 3,000 or 4,000 voters deciding the direction of our city? This, to me, is kind of a no-brainer. The next even year is the commissioners. It's a gubernatorial year, 2008. Of course, you go back, you don't have any state or presidential elections for 2 years, and then you go back to even number of years. You're back to, now the mayor and 2 commissioners are set up with a gubernatorial race, and then the commissioners in 2024, we're looking at a presidential turnout. Every other election is going to coincide with a large state or national election. The numbers are staggering in terms of the increase of voter participation, the diversity and inclusion of the community and the citizens of this city. When you incorporate inclusion and diversity in the leadership of the community, you broaden your capabilities, and the direction of the city is going to be focused and more comprehensive in terms of growth. Does anybody else do this? One of the things that we heard, well, no other significant city in the valley has adopted this. Well, this past November, the city of Austin, with their leadership and the mayor and the city council, they put this to the voters in November, which is what I tried to do several times last year. If we had done that, we would have had 14,000 folks, over 14,000 voters, 40 to 45% of the voting, registered voters in the city of Harlingen would have decided, they would have decided, not the commissioners, not 3 commissioners or 4 commissioners, would have decided whether the city should go to a November election. If you look at the percentage, 76% of Austin voters voted in favor of moving the city's elections. 76%. And that 76% wasn't 1.9% of the registered voters. It was 76% of 40% of the registered voters in this city. It was tens of thousands of voters who decided that was better to move to November to create participation. One of the council members was quoted saying, Austin will see more citizen involvement in governance issues as a result of the proposition's passage. We're positioned to see a whole new level of engagement in civic participation. I think the days of single-digit participation are over. Next slide. The mayor of Austin. Moving city elections to November and even another year will increase civic participation because citizens will educate themselves about local political topics in addition to national topics. Austinites will benefit from having a larger voter turnout. One of the things that we do is people look at our turnout. If they see that the citizens of Harlingen are concerned about the direction of their local government, then they know that the right decisions are going to be made because it's more than just a handful of people making the decisions for the city. And I just ask, again, that this commission seriously, in a comprehensive manner, and through due diligence, study these numbers in this issue and make a decision, not based on what other people are telling you, but based on what you can tell by your own analysis of the information would benefit the community through more inclusion and diversity in the local participation and the direction of our city.
All right. Is there any other discussion?
One quick question on that. All right, there. Did Austin move the city elections to November? I'm reading it wrong or something?
That's a good question.
Even numbered years?
Yeah, let me tell you what they did. They had two other items on there. And one I tried to put on this agenda for consideration as well. And that was term limits. They have also adopted 2 term limits for the commission and for the mayor. And I'm up for anybody who wants to put this up before the commission and sponsor that term limits be on the ballot as well for consideration. Second thing to answer your question for even numbered years, they adjusted and with voter approval their terms to 4-year terms to make sure that every year they were going to fall on an even numbered year. That's how they accomplished all their elections to coincide with an even numbered year.
So,
but what my point is on this presentation is that I pointed out that every other election for every elected office that's on this commission or the mayor, every other election will fall on an even numbered year.
Is there any other, hang on, let's let the commission discuss this first. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple, maybe it's a slide or two before. No.
The numbers?
No, you said that 79% and 40% voted.
Let me give you the...
Go forward to
76%.
Okay, 76% of the 40% of the population that voted agreed on that. So you're looking at like a 29% approval of the overall population if you multiply those numbers.
Of registered voters.
You're telling me only 40% of the registered voters of Austin.
76% of the voters that turned out approved it.
But only 40% of the population turned out to vote.
Well, some of them are minors and aren't eligible to vote.
Okay. I'm going to let Commissioner Besmar have the floor. Now, if you want to ask him questions, you're going to have to put up with his answers.
Okay. That's fine.
So if you want to make a statement, then you
Some of them are rebellions and they can't vote.
Then,
they're minors.
Pardon me for misphrasing. So 40% of the eligible voters voted. And of that, 76% voted for this, which gives you a total voting ratio of 30%.
Well, let's look at
voter.
Hang on. He's not finished.
Yeah.
Let him finish.
So that's that.
And
Twice you said diversity and inclusion. What does that mean?
Diversity means that when you have 50, like you had in Austin, 56% of 500,000 registered voters, 56%, over 250,000 registered voters voted. Now, are you? I don't understand, but let me ask you this. So, are you saying that 30% of the population is a bad voter turnout to make decisions? Because if you think 30% is,
No.
5 or
I did not
10% is even
not
worse.
imply
And Commissioner
good or
Messmer, that's
bad.
what they had in May. You would, if you think that 30% of the population turning out to vote and make decisions for the community is bad,
I didn't
then you
say
should
that.
agree that we need to move to November because the May elections are turning out to be 5 or 6% of the
You put words
population.
in my mouth. I
I'm
did
just
not
pointing
say
that out. If you
You're
prefer the
pointing
numbers
out
for May,
that you put
then
words in
now
my
you're
mouth.
looking at 5 or 6%.
What I said was it would be a total voting of about 30% of the voter population.
Which
I
is-
did not imply one way or the other.
Which is 10%
Hang on.
higher
Okay.
than the May
But
turnout.
you did not
one at a
answer my
time, one at a
question.
time.
What does diversity and inclusion mean? You said that twice.
Well, the problem is that if you don't understand diversity and inclusion, I don't think we have enough time to explain it to you.
I wish you would explain.
Because
What does that mean?
diversity
Well, listen, okay, I don't think that,
has demographics where if you have 250,000 voters coming out opposed to 20 or 30,000 voters coming out, you're going to get a broader representation of the community. You're going to get more diversity in your voter turnout. Inclusion means that you're including people in the decision making of your community. When you make decisions based on expenditures, raising taxes, raising water rates or sewer rates, you have more people involved in those decisions. And the more people you have involved, the more smart people you're going to incorporate in your decision making. That is inclusion.
let me interject something here. And you pointed out that Austin included other provisions on their ballot that dovetailed with this issue, which really my concern about the Senate Bill 100 resolution that was adopted by 3 commissioners and extended their terms for 6 months, didn't put it to the voters. Commissioners made that decision. Number one, that was a decision that you supported. This is a decision that you supported not to include the voters in this decision. But for you and
It's a matter of public record, Mayor, that I tried several times to get it on November's ballot.
Don't interrupt me, please.
Please do not
And then the second thing is that it makes absolutely no sense to have half the commission elected in an off presidential state election year and half run. You either need to extend the terms or shorten the terms to even numbered years so that it syncs up with November elections. Otherwise, half the time you're running in a low turnout time frame in November in an odd numbered year, and half the time you're running in a arguably higher voter turnout in a gubernatorial state election. That's my biggest concern about just running into this without considering that other component. That's the concern. So what would be wrong with appointing a charter committee to make a recommendation on whether or not our terms ought to be changed, and when those terms ought to be changed, and how that would sync up, and how that would fit in with such a proposition as this. Other items regarding the charter that may need to be dealt with could also be dealt with. But that we're only, if you really believe what you believe, Commissioner, you're only solving half the problem. You're not solving the whole problem by putting this on the ballot alone.
Well, let me respond to that since you directed those comments to myself. First of all, it was my recommendation last year in November 2011 that we do a charter committee, review committee, and that committee was to be assembled last spring. Well, when I put it on the agenda to be assembled and to have it for consideration of multiple charter changes, yourself and others on the commission decided that it wasn't a good idea. And y'all basically defeated that charter change committee. That was my original idea last year. I put it on the agenda when it came around, and it got defeated. As we progressed.
Well, I don't have a vote,
Mayor,
so
can I
I don't
finish?
have a vote, so I didn't defeat anything.
Well, it was your influence through discussion that
I'm
influenced.
glad to know I'm that persuasive.
Let's fast forward into August. August, I put it on the agenda again, July or August. I've got the minutes and the agenda right here. It's a matter of public record to put this on the agenda. I was not given the opportunity, or the citizens were not given the opportunity back in the spring for us to put together a charter review committee so that we could consider adjusting the term lengths or adjusting term limits, which I think this city needs terribly bad. The fact is, we moved fast forward. I put it on the agenda again, well, to settle just to have the citizens who were going to come out in November in the presidential election, where we saw over 14,000 citywide voters come out. I wanted it on the ballot so that the 14 to 15,000 voters that did come out could weigh in on whether they wanted to move from May to November. That was thwarted. So I am on record.
Wait, no,
It is a matter of public.
You could have put it on the agenda, just like you got this on the agenda today.
It
Just
was
like
on
you
the
got the
agenda.
speed, just like you got the speed bumps on the agenda. So that's just a complete misstatement of the record.
That is not a misstatement.
It's
It's a
an
matter of
absolute
public record.
misstatement of the record,
It's a
because
matter
you
of
did
public
not,
record.
because you could have put this on the agenda to form a charter review committee 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and you'd actually have a much better, easier time with it. So
Mayor, it's a matter of public record.
it's a
You're
matter of public
We're
record
going to have a
that,
Romney moment here.
well, that may be a compliment as well. Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead.
Could you back up your slides again to the first one, perhaps? Okay, right there. So in November, around 6, 7, 8, 80, I'm sorry, counting wrong. 3, 6, 7, 8. In districts 3, 4, and 5, 8,500 people showed up to vote in the presidential election.
No, yeah.
Okay, of that 8,500, how many voted in the city election?
About 98% of them.
About or exactly?
Well, I have the numbers here.
What are the numbers?
Well, there's 8,400 showed up.
How many
84
voted in
showed
the
up,
city?
showed up and voted. They call that an overvote. And 8,100 voted in the 3 district municipal races.
8,100 voted in the 3.
8,100. That
Okay.
still far exceeds any citywide mayoral race from a May election.
Okay.
No, that's not true.
Then
1998, 8,700 people voted.
have you calculated for the 3 of us on this side when the next presidential election will be, when these
It's
seats
on the
are
next
up?
slide.
Okay, let's see that. When is that?
2016 would be the next mayoral.
No. The question is for the 3 of us, when is the next
2018.
election?
2012, 2015 would be yours.
No, we were elected in 2012.
That's right.
When is the next presidential election for when these 3 candidates are available? Or these 3 spots are available? How many years down the road?
2014. But you're going to have a gubernatorial.
No, there's not in 2014.
2024.
2024. So every 12 years, we cycle through, these 3 positions cycle through on the presidential election.
Well, surprisingly or not.
And so, wait, I'm still asking. So then, these 3 positions, an election in 2013, when's the next presidential election?
Well, if you're trying to indicate that the
No,
presidential
I'm not
election-
indicating anything.
No, well,
When is
let
the
me
next
clarify
election?
this. Well, you can read it, can you? I mean,
Well,
it's
tell
in
me.
there. Just fine.
Tell me.
Read it yourself. The fact is that a 2008
The answer
statewide
you
gubernatorial race
refer
brings
to is
almost as many.
2016,
A
which then
gubernatorial
leads
race
me,
brings almost as many voters as a presidential race.
when is the next
So your
presidential
question is
election
basically-
after
it's
2016?
Gentlemen, one at a time.
Mayor, why don't you
One at a time. Let me,
So when is the next presidential election after the cycle in
well,
16?
just point it out, don't ask him, because he'll,
The answer is 2000 and what, 28. So that's a 12-year
Well,
cycle also.
Let me just respond to this.
And unless,
The fact
I'll let
unless,
you, I'll let
unless we
you
are
respond after we
changed
go to Commissioner
to everyone
Sanchez.
is on the presidential cycle, it's not fair to the population.
Why is it not fair to the population?
Because some
I mean,
years...
it's not fair to the commissioners or the mayor.
No. Because some
Who
years
are elected public servants. It
Because-
shouldn't matter to you as an
you
elected
asked me a
official.
question.
All right,
You serve at the will of the
Commissioner,
vote.
You asked me a
Commissioner, wait a
question.
second.
May I
Why
answer?
don't you let him finish?
Well, he's asking me a question.
Well, and then we'll let,
The-
I really do suggest that you not ask him any more questions.
But in the odd years,
Just make your point, and then we're going to
in the odd years,
But since he has some questions, I still have an opportunity to respond to you.
maybe you'll get
in
another chance.
odd
I
years-
recognize now.
you're not going to get 3,000 people showing up then. And so it's unfair to the population, assuming that your rationale is correct.
What comprehensive information are you basing that on?
Past elections where you get
Where is
800...
your data?
Okay,
You're saying
let me
you're not.
let me go to Commissioner Sanchez. He wants to be
Mayor, let's
recognized.
just put it on the agenda and let the people to make a decision. If they want it in May or elections, or they want the elections in November. That's it. What we have to be a...
Okay, any other discussion?
Well, I have...
Wait a minute, I don't know whether, Mr. Commissioner Leal wants to make a comment. Wait a second. Commissioner Castillo, do you want to say anything?
General comment here. I mean, I agree in general with the fact that the voters should decide on a charter amendment of that nature. My question right now is more from a staff standpoint, because the other issues that have sort of mushroomed out of this is just like what happened in Austin. I'm going off of the information that's provided here. Given that if that's accurate, then Austin didn't simply just move it from May to November. They attached to that move and that decision some other things that I think made it work for that city, which involved the 4-year terms. It involved those even year elections. And I don't know, that's a question more for staff. I mean, would we have, I mean, I would imagine it involves staff, it involves a committee of a type that would try to put together a good comprehensive ballot. Because if we end up just voting on simply moving it from May to November, I don't think that answers the total question. It didn't answer it for Austin, one of the few major cities that have made this decision to move it from May to November. They took a more comprehensive approach to it. They didn't look at it simply as just moving it from May to November. Because I think they identified some of the things that have gotten a little heated here. I mean, everybody's trying to we're touching on some valid points, but we need to try to work on this more comprehensively so that the voters are placed in a position to make a good decision. And that's really my question right now. I mean, to say that we can put this on a May ballot, I don't know if that complicates it more by entertaining these other components of that decision or that ballot. I mean, what would we propose to the voters? I don't think just simply moving it from May to November would be any fix, because you're going to encounter the same thing that everybody's touching on.
Okay.
But I think if we look at it more comprehensively, then it seems to make sense. If we were to entertain as a community the issue of the 4-year terms, making these elections truly coincide with national elections so that you don't end up having these odd year election periods where we're back to square one. Basically, I think that's an argument we have right now in some circles about the May elections. So I think we want to fix this, make it a good fix, or the best fix for us. We have to look at it a little bit broader than just simply the move. So the question all goes back to, do we have time to do that between now and May?
Well, can I respond, because I've got two questions I think that are kind of.
Well, wait, I don't know, he's asked a question of the staff. He didn't ask it of you, so I want the staff to respond if they know.
Yes, we do, Mayor. As your city attorney, pursuant to the Texas Local Government Code, the City Commission, which is the governing body of this city, may on its own motion submit a proposed charter amendment to the qualified voters of the city. And they may do that by a majority vote. The deadline for having the ballot language ready and prepared for printing would be March the 20th, 2013. You actually have 4 regular City Commission meetings, which includes the March 20th, 2013 meeting for the preparation of the language to be approved and submitted for printing. So if you were going to hold more meetings, such as a special meeting for this particular project, you could do so as your city charter gives you the authority to do. But you do have 4 regular meetings. The ballot language deadline is March 20th, and you do have the authority as the City Commission by majority vote to submit a proposed charter amendment to the qualified voters who would have to approve by majority vote for this commission to allow the charter to be changed.
Thank you, Roxanne, and to brief my response, that was going to be my response. There's time to do it if we want to consider extending terms to even number years and incorporating term limits. There's time to do it. And
Now you're getting.
I think well, I tried this last year, November last year. If you look on there, there was an item on the agenda that said
3 of us weren't here.
That
4
said,
of us weren't here.
But you were here, Commissioner Mesmer, when I presented in the spring to create the Charter Review Committee, and it did not pass, and I believe you did not support it. Again, in August, you did not support putting it on the November. Let me explain the penalty that the citizens of Harlingen have endured because we did not have a Charter Review Committee in 2012 to prepare for a presidential turnout to make these crucial decisions. Over 14,000 citywide voters would have been weighing in on this election. One thing I want to note, the City Commission of Austin had the opportunity to move their May elections to November to coincide with their ballot referendum. They knew that presidential election was going to give them the biggest bang for the buck. And that's why they said, if we're going to change our charter, if we're going to extend our terms, if we're going to have even number elections in November, we want it on a presidential election year. And that's exactly what they did. They continued to have their May elections, and they presented the charter changes in November. That is exactly the plan that was in place in 2012 for the City of Harlingen. And it did not occur because we did not have the leadership on this commission to get it done.
All right, let's go
I do
ahead.
have
Call.
one more
No.
answer for Commissioner Castillo that I didn't finish answering for him, but I want to make sure he has information on. Each charter amendment has to be a separate subject for the vote. So if you wanted to have a charter amendment for length of term or a subject like term limits or switching the election from May to November, those would be actually 3 different items that would be separated and voted on by the citizens.
So it can't be a one for all.
Correct. Each subject matter has to be separate.
And then once we do that, if we make a mistake and omit something, we have to wait 2 more years to correct that mistake. Is that not correct?
That's correct, sir. Pursuant to the Texas Constitution, a city charter is only allowed to be amended every 2 years. 2 years is defined as 365 days. So.
And that's why last November, a year from the presidential election date, I put on the agenda for us to create a review committee so that we did not have to rush and haphazardly put together referendum items to be presented to the voters.
That's part of my concern.
All right, did you want to? All right, well, we need to call the question on this, and there's a motion and a second to place this charter amendment item on the May agenda, or rather, to call for the charter amendment in the May election. There's also been suggestions that we
Add additional.
also been suggestions that we create a charter review committee. There's also been suggestions that we could add other things. I wonder though whether or not the statement that the city attorney made was correct, and that you couldn't blend the November and May issue with the lengthy term items. I think that's something that deserves some further research. But at any rate, we have a motion and a second. We've had plenty of discussion. All those,
We don't,
any other discussion?
on the, are we saying that we don't have time to put together a type of committee between now and May, or do you think we could?
March 20th.
Well, yes,
She's saying we do.
March the 20th, you could appoint, we have a special meeting between now and February the 6th, or we could appoint that committee on February the 6th, and if y'all want to have a special meeting to appoint it in a week so we can get started more quickly, we could do that as well. Okay, you have a comment that you want to make. You have about 90 seconds to do it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Jerry Moore, 709 Town Lane. I just wanted to comment on the proposal that you're discussing now with this charter amendment. And I just want to thank Commissioner Leftwich for at least having the courage to bring it up in an attempt to make something in this city change and hopefully improve. I think the attendance in the room, now and in the past speaks for itself as to the participation in the city. Most people believe that they don't have a voice. I think Mr. Leftwich is exactly right. I think those that support the May elections only support a small majority, running the city, and that's not what our founding fathers anticipated. They wanted everybody involved. And I would strongly encourage each and every one of you to dig deep and look at what's going on around you and why 300 people speak for thousands continuously down here. I mean, it is pretty disgusting. But anyhow, that's a whole other subject. I think the May election only leads to sign pollution, I guess is a simple term, with the high spring winds and all the areas. I've chased plenty of signs. I still have 40 seconds, okay? I just think that the May election is very awkward, at least, and it has obviously proved itself to be a very low turnout month, and it serves those in charge only. And the most recent turnouts speak for themselves. And again, I think Mr. Leftwich's presentation is right on, even if he hasn't included all the other opportunities that would bring more people out into the election and truly have a representative democracy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to respond to your question. Pursuant to section 9.004D, lowercase d, of the Texas Local Government Code, it says that a charter amendment may not contain more than one subject. And so if there is a combination of subjects that could be arguably made by the public, then I think the safest route would be to separate the subject lines when it says you can't have more than one subject in an amendment. So arguably May terms, terms of
The
service.
election of commissioners and terms and the dates for those elections, I think, are contained in the same paragraph of the charter. But we'll look at that later. Yes, sir.
Charles Bickley, 125 Arcadia. Gentlemen, we're missing a revenue opportunity here that you should start charging tickets to come to this meeting. Number one. Number two is the voter turnout is dependent upon the people themselves. Whether or not they get out to vote is their prerogative. And when they don't turn out to vote, then they have nothing to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. More in the audience.
I'm Tudor Yulehorn. I live at 402 East Woodland in Harlingen. And one of the things that I would like to point out that hasn't been touched on tonight is, first of all, the Texas Constitution reserves the date in May for municipal elections. Second of all, the charter reserves that date for municipal elections. And so this isn't something new that we've dreamt up about May elections. And in fact, the one thing that's new is the move to November elections, which was caused by a federal law that required 45 days advance notice for ballots to be mailed to overseas servicemen. Because of Texas's primary being held in March, there was if there was a runoff from any of those elections, that was going to cause a potential problem with the counties and cities sharing voting equipment. It turned out that that's not as big a problem as everybody thought, and Senate Bill 100 really wasn't needed, and so a lot of cities have elected not to do that. The other thing is that's not contemplated with a November election for cities is if you have 3 or 4 people running for a city commission seat or the mayoral seat in November, and there is a runoff election, you wind up having a runoff election based on the current Texas laws on December the 21st, which is what we had this last time. And so other elections that have primaries that are settled in March or with a runoff after that, those are held in November where there's only 2 candidates running. And so we would have to contend with that once again. We'd have, if we had a runoff situation, we'd be back again into November where you have a situation where you don't have very many people at all voting. It wouldn't create the voter turnout that you're after. In addition, I believe that when you have the city elections held on their own, all the candidates can make their positions known, they can campaign adequately. When you have it in November, you're running against super PACs, you're running against presidential elections, you're running against statewide elections, all those other elections. Nobody gets to hear what the local candidates have to say because they're lost in the background. And you also have situations where people have no idea what they're voting on that vote, as was seen when we had a candidate that was not even in the election that received 400 votes. So there's lots of reasons to take a careful look at this before you take any action. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd just like to respond to one point from Mr. Ewing. I'd like to point out that the recent runoff election garnered over 600 votes, and that exceeded my May election 2009. I had less, and the combined vote total in that race was less than 600 votes in a May election. So we have a non-presidential fall election, that a runoff election that has exceeded a vote total of a May uniform election date in May.
You have a small district, actually.
It's the districts are within 1% population. They have the same.
He hasn't finished. Courtesy.
You need to stand up to the podium, you need to state your name.
Leftwich had not finished. Commissioner Leftwich. I didn't want to be rude.
Your residence address.
You know, it's funny because I can give you a wrong address and you say I'm telling you the truth, but I'll give you anything you want. My name is Yolanda Schaaf at 284 whatever. You know, it's really strange. You made a point that when they wrote up the charter, that only 3 people, or the people that had voted, was really very discriminated. And when they went ahead and voted to have it in November, you said it was very discriminated. And then you turn around and you voted for May. Still discriminated. Let me tell you what it is. It's the fact that you are afraid that you what am I to say? That the people can rule this town. Give it back to the people. Let the people decide. Let them vote. What are you afraid of? Let the people vote. That is democracy. We're still in America. This is the United States. We're not in another country. I'm not finished. I still have minutes. Huh?
I said in about 30 seconds you will.
That's all right. Well, you're taking up my 30 seconds. I don't appreciate that. Now my train of thought is gone. But anyway, the basic and the bottom line is let the people vote. Put it on the ballot. November is wonderful. And like that young man said, you know, people don't, your voice is your vote. If people don't want to come out and vote, you know what? They're fed up with the same thing, the same people. Don't let big money control Harlingen.
Thank you very much.
Period.
I'd like to calm it down.
Huh?
Well, Mr. Zavala, you still want to say something?
Yes. I just need 1 minute there, that's all.
Oh, you can have mine.
Humberto Zamora, 1014 East Harrison here in Harlingen, Texas. The only thing I want to say is I like what Robert put out, but I like the comment you made after he put it. Why are you leaving him halfway? Why are you every other race coming? So my position here as a suggestion is if you're going to go all the way. Let's sit down and make the first change of extend the 4 years, and then every other year you're going to have exactly what you want.
Too, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily the term, it's the 4-year period is set. And then for the comment of let the people decide, an affidavit that's by petition form submitted to the city with the correct number of votes, we'll sit down and bring it to the table if we can't do it some other way. So my feeling, Mayor, is I think your recommendation was excellent. Don't take it halfway. If you're going to do it right. Thank you.
First, I appreciate your comments there. I just wanted to point out that that was my full intention in 2012, November, City Commission meeting 2011. I had a proposal for consideration before the City Commission to create a city charter review committee. And again, it didn't happen. Now we're to the point where we're penalized. We missed a presidential turnout in November 2012 to participate in changing the direction of the city, opposed to having 3,000 or 4,000 folks that are going to look at it in May. Now, instead of 15,000, we're going to be looking at a turnout less than 4,000 people, probably more, because there'll be some interesting issues on the ballot. Again, I'm all for having comprehensive items on the agenda to make this the right thing to do, the right way to do it. And I've said it before, I tried to get it done last year, and I didn't get the support on the commission, but I think we've got time to do it now, and I just ask the commission to consider it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. All right. The motion does not carry. Item 13, board appointments. Are there any board appointments?
None.
I have 3.
None. All right. And
I have 3. I did. I have 2 reappointments and 1 appointment. Reappointments, I have June Ramirez for the Downtown Improvement District Board. And I have Eugene Allen to the Veterans Advisory Board. Those are reappointments. And then on the Senior Citizens Advisory Board, Ruthie Avers, I'd like to appoint her to that board. She'll be replacing.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend Connie Salas for the senior citizens. I'd like to reappoint Sergeant Major Ford to the veterans. I'd like to reappoint William Trey Peacock to his position.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the board appointments?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. We're going to now go to executive session items. We're going to include in that executive session items. This item 5B. So, we have proposed executive session of the following items. A, pursuant to Chapter 551, Subchapter D, BTCA Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with city attorney seeking legal advice regarding lease agreement between the City of Harlingen and White Wings. Also, 5B, second and final reading to approve and adopt an ordinance for a specific use permit, request a bar, lounge, and retail GR district located at 1105 South Tam Lane, bearing a legal description of 3.4740 acres out of 33 Stewart Place subdivision, and also pursuant to 551.087 regarding commercial and financial information from a business prospect, conducting economic development negotiations, known as Project Tropical. Is there a motion to go into executive?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We'll go back to the back room so that there will be an action. There could be an action item after we come out of executive session. Okay, we're going to go to item 5E. This will be the second and final reading. By the way, we're out of executive session at 8:28. This will be the second and final reading to approve and adopt an ordinance for a specific use permit, SUP request to allow bar lounge, general retail GR district located at 1105 South Tam Lane, bearing a legal description of 3.4740 acres out of block 33 Stewart Place survey. Is there a...
Mayor, the only, I wanted to clarify that staff recommendation would be that it would be required to come back within 6 months. And I believe the ordinance that you have before you is actually stating 1 year. So that would be my staff recommendation.
Is there a motion to approve the ordinance on final reading with that change to 6 months?
I'll make a motion.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, then,
It means that every 6 months.
anybody sign up for citizen communication?
Evaluate.
All right, being none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your participation.
Every 6 months is better than nothing. You know, they just have to.